We are here with the Topsport CEO, Tristan Merlehan. How are you, mate?
Yeah, very good, Alex. Thanks for coming up and having a chat, and hope you really enjoyed the office. A little bit of a peek around the place. So yeah, we're happy to have you up here.
No, mate, it's a pleasure to be here, and it's just incredible that you give this kind of insight to the public, or at least me, and I can give the best feedback to the public on what it looks like, and I guess the insides of how a bookmaker operates, because I guess you wouldn't get that from many other bookmakers in the industry.
Yeah, no, and that's something I've always said in anything we've done. It's always a case of we're very open about what we do, and we're very genuine and very transparent in anything we do. And some things people agree with, some people they don't. But I think that's the thing I always try to pass on to our guys out there on the trading floor, and something I hold pretty dear as well in terms of values, is that if you're going to make a decision, you've got to be able to justify it. And I think it's great. It's like the other side of the coin, where people want to come in here and see what a gambling or what a bookmaking office is all about. And we've got a good group of team out there at the moment that are working hard on. We're doing this on a Friday arvo, so you'll see a bit later on the amount of guys that are in there trading on. We've got footy coming up tonight, obviously State of Origin round tonight, so there's not as many games as what we would normally experience, and then we've got a good card of AFL and plenty of racing. So it's a good little setup, and glad I could come in and talk you through it.
Yeah, no, it's lovely, mate. Why don't we just kick things off? Tell us a little bit about Topsport. I know you've been on the podcast before, but I think just for those who haven't seen the podcast, or just a quick brief introduction to Topsport, and then we can go from there into the more interesting questions.
We've been around for 15 years now, and I think a lot of people, as we probably touched on last time when I was on the show, we've been around for an extended period of time, but we're nowhere near the top echelon of bookmakers in terms of hold or customers and those sort of things yet. But we've grown from a 3 or 4 person operation to we've got about 40 on the team now. We started in 2005. I actually set this up with Dad. He was an on-course bookmaker for many years at both Sydney and on the Gold Coast. He was probably Queensland's biggest bookmaker for a long period of time. And I was at uni at the time. I was only 18, and we decided I could see all the people punting away in class and probably should have been studying, but I thought, well, maybe we've got to try to get online and take some bets on the basketball, because the issue back then, when we could bet on sport, and back in 2005 on the racetrack. So I used to help Dad on the racetrack and carry the bag for him, and every Saturday we'd be there. The issue was you can only take bets on the footy when you're actually on course. So you couldn't take any bets on the Friday night games unless we fielded on a Wednesday. So I think everyone's very aware now that the markets are nowhere near as efficient on a Wednesday for a Friday game. We had to take our big bets on a Friday, so it was a punter's delight there, being able to get set for big amounts, just because we wanted a bit of action on Wednesday for Friday. And then, same as Sunday, you couldn't take a bet, and you'd be busy working on the races, and you'd have your market, and it seems so naive in hindsight, but Dad and I used to print out our markets, work out where we had things positioned on Saturday before we headed off to the races. And then if anyone's seen a bookmaker work on the rails at Sydney or on the Gold Coast, it's pretty hectic out there when the races are in the middle of the day, and obviously your AFL games would kick off at 1 or 2. Gary Ablett might have pulled out of Geelong, and we'd still have the line of what we had in the morning. Had no idea. Punters were ringing up, having these big telephone-sized bets on. We couldn't work out why we weren't winning, but it's pretty easy in hindsight. But then we went online. I just started a very small operation myself. I'd sit up in the office and handle things. Dad would still be on course. It just gave us that outlet to work on Friday, work on Saturday, work on Sunday, on all the footy games Saturday night as well, which was good as an eye-opener. There's a lot of different things when you move from on-course to online, but I think you can take a lot of positives and lessons from what you get when you're on course as well, where you've got to be able to justify a decision. I think there's a change in how the industry's moved in the last probably 5 or 10 years, where a lot of traders at a lot of the bigger businesses, they haven't got to justify their decision to a punter. You can bet these really small limits, and there's not that there's no accountability. They're not doing the wrong thing. They're doing it by the business model. But for us, we'd have to tell someone, hey, you can't have this bet, and this is the reason. You'd have to verbally say it to them or talk to them over the phone, and it'd be myself or Dad conveying that message. And that's what I try to pass on to the guys in our office, that if you're going to make a decision, you've got to be able to justify it. Don't leave it for the customer service rep to have to handle an irate customer over something that isn't right, and we never ever get everything right. I don't think anyone can say you get everything perfectly right all the time, but I feel that on most instances we get it right more often than not. And if we do butcher something, we're very open to say, look, we did get that wrong, we'll fix it up and go from there. So I think that's something that I've learnt from going on course to online, and it's something that you try to instill into the other traders out there, because not many of them have had the opportunity to be able to be in that space. So it's trying to convey those lessons, and I think most of the guys do a pretty good job in that space.
Yep, no, terrific, mate. Give us an idea of, you said 40 employees now, so are they all traders? Are they all doing the same, like as one person doing one sport? Are they diversifying amongst different sports? Yeah,
so the vast majority of our team are traders. I think probably that 40, maybe 35 would be on the trading team, which is a sizable proportion compared to a lot of the other operations out there where we outsource a few of our IT things, our marketing, these side of things, where I know a lot of that's handled internally with some of the bigger operations. So we've got a key focus on making sure we've got the sharpest prices in the marketplace. There's a lot of manual trading late. There's a lot of making sure we're aware of news, people discussing things internally, what we need to do, where we need to move prices, strategies. So in terms of the breakup of those 35 odd traders, you'd have probably maybe 60-40 probably on the racing side of things. You have a few hybrids that jump around between racing and sport depending on the schedule. On a given Saturday, which is obviously our big day, we'd have someone trading the Victorian meeting, so the Metropolitan and Provincial meeting, that have their two meetings. Someone trading Sydney, someone Adelaide and Provincial, Queensland, Gold Coast and Brisbane, and then Perth and one of the others, and then some New Zealand races in the middle of it. So you have about 6 traders on the racing on a given Saturday. You've got the sports side of things where someone will handle the AFL in the day, then someone else will take it over in the evening. Rugby league, the trader gets in at lunchtime and handles the games throughout the course of betting, and rugby union as well. So, and then you'll have someone else that'll handle a little rats and mice in between. Then you switch that up over the course of the year based on the schedule. And on a given day, there's the dominant trader, I suppose, that would handle the same sport more often than not. But we like to make sure that most of our traders have got a good understanding about different sports, because if someone's away or you've got to change something around, and people enjoy a bit of flexibility, a bit of difference. If you're doing the same thing the whole time, every shift it can get a bit monotonous. So a lot of our guys have got a lot of skill across many different sports. Racing as well, they can handle the provincials, the metros, the dogs, the trots. There's little nuances to all of it, but fundamentally a lot of it's the same. So the vast majority of the guys are trading out there.
So first topic I wanted to talk about is the soft versus sharp model. So you guys are more on the side of the sharp model. I mean, there's all different types of ways you can do the sharp model, isn't there? I mean, the general theory is you guys are taking a lot more money on games than your average bookmaker. I mean, you guys are, I can only think of like you guys, Pinnacle, BetChris. There's a handful of you guys in the whole world that are doing the sharp model. So have you ever considered going to the soft model? Because it seems like, just from the outset, from the outside, it seems like the easiest way to do bookmaking. Like it doesn't take too much brain power in that sense. It's just, if you find someone that's beating you, get rid of them, keep the people on that are giving you money in a sense, and just turning the wheels like that. Have you ever considered going to, or do you disagree with me? Do you think that is actually a harder way of doing bookmaking?
There's a few different ways to look at it, and I guess there's a few different ways to answer that question. And to be perfectly honest, we're wanting to maintain our model and grow our model, and that doesn't mean that we're going to solely be taking on the pro punters. What we need to do, particularly with the way the taxes and these new things are coming into the industry, we need the ability to be able to grow all customers, and we want to continue to service our professional customers. We respect them, and it's probably ingrained in us from when we were on course that I would never just go in there and say, hey, you can't bet on this anymore. On racing now, you can't do that anyway because of the fact that there are minimum bet limits. I'd love to see some minimum bet limits brought in for sport. I think that would be really good for everyone. Whether it's possible or not, I don't know. I don't think it's that difficult. I really don't. And I think that would be great for the industry. But to answer your question, it's also not... there's benefits in what we do as well with being a sharp bookmaker, and I wouldn't even call it sharp. I'd say it's a fair bookmaker. Like we obviously don't bet massive limits on minor sports. It's different. We have limits, and we have limits based on events and times to jump, and we're pretty we're very confident we're leading the marketplace in those. Like, for example, on a rugby league game, which is our premier sport, or an AFL game, which are our two premier sports, we'll bet everyone to win 10,000 in the last hour on our win and line. It's not the case on a prop market. Obviously, we still have strong limits on that, but it's different. If they're betting on a Tuesday for a Saturday game, the limits are different as well. So, but we're very happy to explain those and be very clear with the expectations for customers of what it is. Obviously, with the way the taxes are coming, we have had to tweak those over the years. I'd love to be back in the day where we bet everyone 10 years ago to win 5,000 on a Wednesday. Wouldn't blink an eye, and you know, it was known, and there would be other people out there in the marketplace to do that. But it's become a lot more difficult to do that. But it's also helps us shape our book and helps us get our markets really accurate, so that we can take those big bets at jump time from our sharp, our grey, our soft customers as well. And I think it's a case of, you can look at it two ways. If you're just going to go and shut people down, which, yeah, we could if we wanted to. We don't want to, but we could if that was where we wanted to move to. I don't think a lot of these pros are just going to then move away and, Topsport don't want us, I'm going to go somewhere else. There's different avenues to get set. We feel we've got a really good respect with all of our winning customers and our really genuine pro punters, that they're going to do the right thing. They're going to come through the front door. They're going to back the option they want to be on. They're going to have they know we're going to give them a fair bet, and we know that the market's going to move based on that opinion, and we bookmake, and that's all it is. It's just trying to shape your prices based on the volume of money, the supply and demand, different opinions. We have our own opinions as well, and we look at what the sharp punters are doing, and we move our odds to do that, to either offset it or lay other runners shorter and these sort of things. So to answer your question, no, I certainly don't ever see us getting to the point of switching people off. We'd never do that. And we hope we can continue to offer the exact same service we've always offered, but from us, we need to try to grow our number of customers. We need to do that to be able to ensure that we've got the stability there to take on the pros and to continue to do that and to sharpen our market. So it's a catch-22 situation, and I think we do it pretty well.
So how hard is it for you guys, like as a sharp bookmaker? Like, is that a goal at all, to become as big of a bookmaker as the Tab or Sportsbet? I mean, I'm sure it's a goal of yours one day, but like, how seriously, it must be very difficult to go from where you guys are now to all the way to where they are at the moment.
Yeah, and obviously, you have silly goals of where you want to get to, and then Sportsbet's miles in front of everyone at the moment. They do a great job. And I think they offer a pretty good service on most occasions too. I feel our model would work unbelievably well the bigger we get. I really do. I think the bigger we grow, the better our model works, which I'm surprised a lot of the other bigger places haven't gone down that route, because I think there's only a finite amount of really sharp punters out there that are the ones dictating these markets. And if you can make your markets sharper and more accurate, it's got to provide you a bigger percentage for your recreational punters as well. So yeah, of course, I'd love to get there, and I'd love to maintain our model doing it that way. It's just such a big jump to go from even where we were 2 or 3 years ago to where we are now. There's a lot of growing pains involved in that. The taxes are very hard to absorb in our position in the marketplace. You get a lot of benefits when you're quite small. You get a lot of benefits of scale when you're very big. To get from very small to very big, it's a very difficult and long journey to get there, because they've got billions of dollars behind them. They've got massive, big companies behind them. They've got hundreds and hundreds of staff. We're a family business that have grown from 3 people to 40. It's very difficult to be taking on the likes of Sportsbet. We're having a crack at it, and I think we're doing a pretty good job making the progress we've made. But it's it is a challenge, and it's something we just got to keep chipping away, finding little niches and gaining any little ground we can.
What are your main strategies at the moment to, I guess, let's just say becoming as big as Sportsbet is step number 10 and you're at step number 1? Like, what's step number 2 and 3 look like to get there at the moment?
Yeah, it's for us, it's not really worrying about what the others are doing. Like, I just have a complete focus on what we're doing. And I know, if you go and meet up with some people in the industry, this bookie's doing this, this bookie's doing that, or they're selling, or they're doing this. I don't really care. Like, I really don't. I'm just more worried about what we're doing. I'm worried about every day trying to make sure we provide the same really strong product we're offering to our customers, trying to grow that just that little bit every day, trying to get the name out there, get people to know who Topsport are. It's amazing how we've got the partnership down there at Seabus, which you can see it's only a couple of kilometres down the road from our office. It makes perfect sense, but we've got the lounge out there, and you get a couple of hundred people into the lounge and genuinely 150 of them wouldn't know who Topsport is. So we've got to change that mentality. We need people, particularly on the Gold Coast, to have a better understanding of who Topsport are, understand why they should be betting with us. We're one of the few Aussie bookmakers out there. We offer the most attractive odds. We bet anyone. We have, everything that you could want. I feel we're moving towards that, but we also know there's so many things we need to improve on. We need to improve our app, we need to improve our website, and they're the little things we need to chip away at to help us get to level 2 and 3. So I think it's now trying to continue that brand awareness, making sure people are becoming more and more aware of Topsport, what we stand for, who we are, and just trying to fill in those little gaps and the deficiencies of our website and our app.
If it was all a level playing field, let's just say, and you and me, you're the sharp guy, I'm the soft bookie, and we're both starting a bookmaker today. Getting started, do you think is it harder to make money straight away as a sharp bookie versus a soft bookie? Like, who do you think would be more successful to start with?
Oh, you need a lot more resources to run an operation the way we run it. So immediately it would be a lot simpler to be a soft bookie. Even I've spoken to some bookmakers who are probably half our size in type of turnover, and they can run their operation with 4 or 5 staff where we need 40 of them. So there's such a big discrepancy there immediately, because we need to be on the ball with our prices. Especially initially, you don't have the client base to be able to, if you're taking a sharp bet and this customer's probably going to beat you over a long period of time, you don't get that offset of money until you pick up a decent group of customers. So it's certainly in the short term, and even probably in the medium, and even in the lengthy term, you're always going to be more profitable running a soft book. And there's no doubt about that. We know our margins significantly less than everyone out there, and we're well aware of that. It also doesn't mean that we don't want to do it. Like, it's one of those things, you got to have pride in your business, and I have pride in what we do. And I feel that we can offer really good service. I feel we take everyone on, and I feel we've got integrity out there that people can actually understand and say, look, this is how bookmaking was run 30, 40 years ago, and that's something we want to try to continue to do.
And we talked about this on the podcast a little bit last time, and you talked about kind of encouraging your traders to make their own, you mentioned it earlier too, like making their own decisions, being able to back it up. How do you, because most bookmakers just want to balance the book, take equal action on each side and make a sure profit, I guess. What's it like trying to educate your guys to try and take as much expected value as possible, if you want to put it that way, but at the same time they're kind of playing with your money, your family's money in a way. Like, how do you teach them to be a bit more risky, I guess, but know that they're actually making good long-term decisions? Yeah,
I guess it's a case of educating them of these are the maximum liabilities we want to get to in a game. If we're happy or we're comfortable standing a match for X and we're only halfway there, even though it's lopsided one way or the other, and it's business and we're comfortable with the price, we're comfortable with the group of customers that are on it, we're comfortable with our position, then you don't need to panic, because you don't want to just flip the book for the sake of it to balance it if you feel you're on the right side of the number. I guess the thing I always say to the guys, win, lose or draw, it's important that after you've made, I find myself when I still do a little bit of trading, very poorly I might add, but I do a little bit of trading occasionally if we're light on the floor, and I guess it's one of those ones where I find if I've got to sit there and I've got to really watch the game or really watch the race, I know I've probably butchered something because I'm more nervous. I've put us into a position where I'm not comfortable. That might mean, one of the memories that always sticks out for me is when Black Caviar raced over in Royal Ascot. My family were actually going over to Royal Ascot to watch it. It had always been a dream of Dad's to get to Royal Ascot, and Black Caviar's racing, so let's head over there. Now, we had a customer that used to have $1 million on Black Caviar every time she went around. Like, every race, probably from about the 5th race in her career. And obviously she never got beat. So he used to have $1 million on a very short, Royal Ascot rolls around. I knew the family were over there. And I said to him, look, I'm going to bet this bet back. I'm going to just, so you guys can go over there. You're not cheering for the Aussie icon to get beat. You can go over there. You can enjoy the day. Cheer her on. That was the most nerve-wracking race I've ever watched in my life, because we couldn't lose on the race. We were going to win something small, whatever happened. But it was the opportunity cost. I'm like, I've done something completely foreign to what I would do. I've made a emotional call and dumped all this money. And she ended up just winning. Like, I don't know if you remember the race, but the jockey rode her out and then she stopped. And that was the most nerve-wracking race I've ever watched, when it's exactly what a lot of what you say, where you're trying to balance your book, where for me it's completely foreign. Like, I wouldn't have blinked the eye watching that go around, knock off the 30 or 40,000 or whatever it was in that race. I can't remember how short she was. It might have been a bit more than that. I think she was $1.20. So, we would have stood it for our maximum if she gets up, but it was just a different sort of mindset. And that, to me, I watched that race so intently, even though we had no risk involved in it. Yeah. So I guess that sort of explains my mindset on it. And I suppose from our guys, all you can impart on them is, would you make that same decision again? It doesn't matter if that bet wins, or that event you're handling wins or loses, or you win or lose on the event. As long as, if you were in that position again where you had to make that same chain of decisions, would you make the same decision? If you would, and we ended up losing in the event, then that's fine. If we're constantly doing the wrong thing, we're constantly losing on the back of these decisions, we need to understand the process and maybe tweak the process. But you need everyone on the same page, singing off the same song sheet and trying to handle events the same way.
Yeah, we had a similar question on Twitter actually, about asking you, maybe Black Cat was a bit different, but now that you've got 40 people in the office, is there a game or a race where you guys were all sitting around and sweating the outcome? I guess like any professional sports bet, or any bettor in the world does. Yeah,
there's plenty of games where when you've got a sizable liability. Probably wasn't anywhere near the big amount, but like Nature Strip a couple of weeks ago at Royal Ascot, all the Aussies were on him, shall I say, and that was a sizable stand. So it's very unpatriotic to be cheering against the champ, but like it's a little bit different in that sense. But yeah, there's plenty of games where you'll put yourself into a position. We've got a lot of big punters that throw a lot of bullets around, and whether it be a race on a Saturday or a footy event on a Sunday or a grand final, that there's plenty of them. I know there's plenty of cricket games. We've had some big swings. I still remember when West Indies won the T20 World Cup, and they got all those sixes late in the last over. That was probably one of our biggest swings we've ever had, and it was a very deflated office leaving there in the early hours of the morning. So no, it's there's definitely, and I think that's the great thing about our team, is that everyone's on the same page. Everyone's cheering for that same outcome. Everyone's going for the big swings. It's not, I've had my punt on this or whatever. They're very engaged in what we're trying to do, and ultimately it's everyone's living or dying by the decision that trader makes, and I think that adds a lot of pride to what we're trying to do. Everyone's trying to do their best job, because you can see it's black and white in front of you that we need this team to win, we need this horse to get beat, whatever the case might be is, and there's certainly a lot of swings every day. There's a sizable swing that everyone you can hear sometimes I do a few podcasts and I've got the door shut and you hear a big cheer go out of the office or a big groan, and people wonder what's happening, but it's when there's been either a positive or negative result.
Okay, nice, I like it. Profiling customers, I think this is like a topic that at least I've gotten into earlier, and listening to certain other people talk about how they use their customers' information in a way, and that's a huge part of your business, is profiling the customers that come through not through the door, but on the website or whatever, and using their information to your benefit, and to be able to make money long term in that way. How long does it take you guys to, let's just say I signed up brand new Topsport account today, like how many bets are we talking, how many weeks, like, until you've got you're never going to be 100% certain that I'm sharp or not sharp, but to a point where you're happy to make some serious decisions based on your profiling?
Yeah, we can make a call, a educated guess after one bet. Like there's certain things that you'll see that will stand out, like dogs, whatever, and you can make an assessment based on that. And I think one of the key things we do really well is, sometimes if someone is sharp and they're still betting in manners that we can handle it, they won't know that we believe that they're sharp because we'll handle the business and manage it in a certain way very subtly, which is something that we pride ourselves on. But yeah, you see accounts that after 1 or 2 bets, well, this guy is very, very sharp or otherwise. And then other accounts, we've had guys betting with us for 5 or 6 years, and some of their business is very sharp and some of it is not. And they're the really tricky ones, because they're the customers that you're very difficult to read, that when they're betting early in a race day, obviously they've got some mail and they know what they're doing. If they're betting 2 days out from a footy game and on this particular team, do they have some mail surrounding that team? But then they'll have a 5-leg multi on Friday night when they're at their pub with their mates. So that's probably the difficulty. And it's people changing their betting habits over a period of time. We've got customers that have been with us for 5, 10, 15 years, and you could have someone rated or pigeonholed as this person, but they've changed their betting pattern, and they're the ones that can catch you off guard, because all of a sudden you're tweaking your books in the manner that might not be the right way from our long-term perspective.
Yeah, I was gonna say, have you had people sting you before where I don't know, I guess the common term is like a whale in the industry. I've heard many people ask me before if I've got any mates that have whale accounts where they've lost a lot of money on their accounts, and then they sell them off to some kind of sharp punter, whether that's a syndicate or whatever. And next thing you know that the most lucrative account, I guess, in your business has swiftly become the most unattractive account for you. Have you had many of those cases?
Yeah, you get them occasionally. I think we're fortunate where most of our whale customers are people we know, and you can get a pretty good read if someone's betting pattern to that extent changes significantly. And I'm sure there's people probably listening to this laughing because they're like, oh, I've got him, but that sometimes is the subtlety, because you can see some of our really good customers have been with us for a while and they might have these sharp bets, and we have to handle those bets a little bit differently based on the rest of the account. They stand out pretty well when you know what that person's doing. It's also making sure that you're betting products that you're comfortable with, and only elevating the limits at certain times. I think we educate our bigger punters pretty well that if they want to have sizable bets, they've got to do it in the right time frame from our perspective, and that doesn't matter what type of customer you categorise it as. We're not going to take a 50k bet on a Wednesday on an NRL game, no matter who you are. That's just not going to happen, and that sort of negates a lot of that. And if a sharp punter is taking a whale's account of that last hour, which is when we really open our shoulders, the sharp punter can get on to win 10,000 themselves in that last hour at least. Sometimes, a lot of the time, more. So the incentive for people to do that to us is a lot less, because and that's why there's the benefits in being that sharp model, because we've got all the pro punters betting with us in the world, in Australia, and I've got a good relationship with them as well, and I'm confident that a lot of them, and I'm not saying all of them because I know there'd be some people trying to do the wrong thing, but it's a very small industry. You work out very, very quickly who is doing that wrong thing, and that mud sticks for a long time. Particularly, we offer a very fair service until someone's not fair to us, and then we can. We obviously, we're not a charity as well, so it's one of those ones where I think respect and integrity and running a business, because a lot of these punters are running a business themselves, and it's a two-way street, and I think that's important, and they have a good understanding of that. So yeah, there are a few whale accounts, but I think I think we handle that reasonably well.
Yeah, and how do you educate your traders on profiling itself? Because the easiest way you can do it is just by seeing their closing line value. That's one that's highlighted predominantly in the industry as if you're beating the closing line long term, you should be making money from sports betting. Is that kind of a starting point for you in terms of educating the traders on profiling customers, or are there some other ways too that you're able to? Because there are people out there who get zero closing line value. I know a few of them, and their ROI is huge. So how do you, are there other ways outside of that you're educating the guys?
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's like in anything. It doesn't matter if it's in our industry or any industry. It's not putting all your eggs into one basket. So closing line value is immense. Like if you see someone's backing something at 5.5 and the game jumps 9.5, then win, lose, or draw, they're likely going to be pretty sharp. And there's also just the pure profitability. Like some person might be taking poor prices or just winning. And for our point of view, they're really good customers, because if we've got someone that's really sharp just on the pure P&L side of things, and we can actually move the book to lay the other side without having to get into a really ordinary percentage. Like, we love those type of customers. There's plenty of them out there. And then the other thing is just seeing the flow on bets. Like, if someone has a bet and then a sharp punter is betting after them, then it's highly likely that this person is probably pretty sharp as well. So timing of it, if someone's having a bet just before or after some news has been announced, if they're betting early, if they're betting predominantly in one area, if they're staking in a certain manner, there's so many ways to look at it, and it's not just one answer, which is what categorises someone, and it's monitoring the patterns as they go through too. So there's a lot of ways to look at that.
Responsible gambling, it's hard to kind of frame this question in the right way, but I've always wondered what it's like on the bookmaker side, where you can see someone potentially has a problem and they're, excessively gaming and losing lots of money. Obviously you have a responsibility to shut the accounts down, etc., etc. What is it like from a moral perspective? I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong at all, because you're on both sides of the fence here. Like, you've got sharp guys that are taking money from you. It works both ways. Like, how does it feel morally when you maybe close an account down, or turn someone's business away, knowing that they've lost X amount of dollars due to your service, if you get what I mean?
Yeah, and it's a tricky one, and I think the industry has really improved massively over the last number of years. There's another system coming in place, the National Consumer Framework, which is going to be really beneficial in that. From my perspective, I love punting, I love this industry, and the last thing I want is for people to be negatively affected on something that I really enjoy doing, and you're never going to completely wipe it out, because I know the reality is, and what you're sort of leading to with that question is, you shut someone down and then they go and maybe move on to someone else and the same problem occurs again. So I think all you can do is make sure that you've got all the right mechanisms in place at the outset. Like, everyone now has to enter a deposit limit when they open. If they want to, there's constant checks of that. It's trying to make sure you have that conversation in the cold light of day if someone is potentially, betting in what we perceive as beyond their means. And it's a difficult one to ask, because someone could be having 100,000 on something and that's well within their means, and someone could be having $50 and that's well outside their means. So it's trying to have a balanced perspective on that. It's trying to make sure that you can look yourself in the mirror and say, look, I've handled this situation okay. And I think that's all we go down, and it's a really tricky one, and there's never going to be a perfect solution. I'm hoping the framework that comes in is again going to help the people who are significantly at risk. Like, we've got a lot of customers that have closed their accounts permanently, and they bob up time and time, and they might have had a situation with us where they had some pretty strict deposit limits or things which was, from our perspective, we thought was controlling how they punt, and then they close that down and then they go to another company where it's a free-for-all. So it's a really tricky situation, and it's something that will never be completely solved, I don't think, in the industry. It's something where you just got to continue to try to educate people, and it's not just the catch, grow, gamble responsibly. It's trying to make sure people are educated in the right way, and doing anything and improve things in a way that's going to benefit it and learn from it. Yeah.
Are you able to share information with other bookmakers? Let's just say you saw that I had a problem with gambling, close my account down. Are you allowed to go and share information with all the other bookmakers in the industry? That
you can't really at the moment, but that's what this framework is. Once you exclude from us, it will be placed on a register, and I think it's coming in the next month or so, and then that will be shared, and you won't be able to, I'm still trying to understand exactly how it's going to work, but basically that's going to act exactly what you're saying, where we're not the ones physically breaching the privacy sort of side of things, but when that act is made in our system, that person is now self-excluded, it'll flow on to a lot of other bookmakers, which I think can only be a positive sense. So.
No, definitely. All right, Twitter questions, mate. That was the great thing about this. I sent a tweet out. I've never had so many impressions on a tweet before. I didn't realise I was that popular, mate, until I mentioned Topsport. But all right, we've got one here from @Capito85. He says, any plans to take the naming rights for the Robina Stadium, so Cbus Super Stadium it is now, in the future? Just down the road, mate.
Just down the road. We're 1 year into, I think it's our 4-year deal with the Titans. We're very, very proud to be involved with the Titans. I think the naming rights is a little bit beyond us at the moment, but who knows where we get to in 3 or 4 years' time. So, they're our local side. I've always been a big Penrith fan, but despite the Titans not going so well, I've definitely switched my allegiances to the Titans this year, which is a big shift from grace, where we've got one team that's probably going to win the comp and the other one that might run last. But it's to their credit, the Titans, they're a very good team off the field. The guys we deal with are great. I really want to continue that relationship. You never know where it gets to. At the moment, we're comfortable with our type of sponsorship, but we've got ambitions to grow the business, and you never know where that leads to.
Yeah, there's a lot of, you got Bluebet. There's all sorts of stadiums being.
There's a lot of. I know Bluebet did their IPO and they raised a lot of cash. We're still a wholly family-owned business. We haven't quite got the liquid assets that the likes of Bluebet and Sportsbet and that of the world have. So we just got to do things that are within our budgets and our constraints. And we're hoping to grow that portfolio all the time. So
lovely, mate. This is from My Bet or Life. He says, are you thinking about opening up operations in the UK, or we can extend that to worldwide? Have there ever been any conversations about opening up to those countries?
I reckon I'd be in trouble if I opened up in the UK, because my wife's Irish, and I think that might end poorly for me. But no, I actually think our model would run pretty well over in the UK. I really do. I'm surprised there's not more of it, to be honest, because of the way there is a lot of cash business, and I'm a bit naive to how all that works, but surely with the anonymity of that sort of stuff, having a sharper model has got to be a positive sense. So I've always thought about it. The way the tax structure in Australia is going at the moment is something you've got to consider, because there's it's getting harder and harder and harder to make it work here. And as I said, I want to continue to run our model while we're operating. I'm not going to turn the back on that, and maybe it's a bit easier to run things in America or in the UK. I don't know. So something, we're focused solely on Australia at the moment. That's all we're really worried about. But you never say never to anything, and I think we would work over there, and I think, but I also do think the one of the big niches we've got in the Aussie market, which not many people can attest to, is that we are family 100% Australian owned, which a lot of the bigger places can't say that. So I know there's a lot of smaller ones popping up, and that sort of dilutes that little benefit we have. But for whatever that's worth, but going overseas, it's a big step. It's a lot involved in doing that, and at the moment we've just got to continue to grow impact in Australia.
Yep, cool, mate. And maybe talk a little bit about the tax situation too, and how that obviously affects you, but then how that carries on to the customers. Does it affect the customers on a price basis? Does it more so in terms of the amount of bets you can take, like the actual monetary value of a bet? Like how will that actually affect the customer? Yeah,
the tax has been the biggest issue we've seen in the last 10 years in the wagering space. So in Australia now you've got racefield product fees where you pay a fee to the governing body, you pay to the racing bodies or to the sporting bodies, which we're happy to do. Like, we are very happy to be paying the funds to the people that put on the show, but it's got to the point where, in my view, some of it's excessive. Then you've got point of consumption tax, which is where you pay to the government based on whether bets have been struck or the residence of the person is. So that's going to the government, which then gets passed back in. Now that's on all sports, so it doesn't matter if you're betting on table tennis or English racing or Flemington. If you're in Queensland, you're paying the Queensland point of consumption. That's gone up significantly in the last week. New South Wales yesterday. You've obviously got your GST, your income tax, your your employee tax as well. So there's all those things, and yeah, the impact, it's significant, because that's why the industry has changed. Like, that is why we've seen a real shift from 10 years ago. We'd be betting on a Wednesday, and you could take a 20k bet on a Wednesday, and if you only wanted to hold 5 of it, you could bet back 5k with 3 other bookies. They'd all be happy to do it. You'd have no dramas. Like, now, if you've got a customer that is losing 5% to you, they should be a great customer. They should be one of your VIPs that are turning over a significant amount of money, losing at that sort of level, betting very responsibly, betting within their means, getting a lot of enjoyment out of it. Those customers aren't profitable anymore, and that's a horrible space for the industry to be in. These customers that we have a lot of, that are our sharp customers that are winning 1 to 5%, they should be valuable customers too. They should be the champions of the sport. They should be able to get set, and they can't at the moment, because, you know, if you're not winning at 7 or 8% on a given day, you're losing, and that shouldn't be the way you need to run your business to be successful. And that's why the industry's changed. You know, you've got the bigger companies that the traders on the floor are not wanting to shut everyone down. The traders on the floor are not wanting to bet people minimal events on an NRL game on a Wednesday, but these big companies are owned by the shareholders, and they've got to make a profit. There's nothing in saying, oh, we had a crack and we had a big swing on the game, we got a beat. They're just, you know, it is what it is, and that's no disrespect to any of those. It's just the way the nature is, and when you've got to be winning at that large number to be viable, you've got to be ruthless, and yeah, it means for us, on the back of the Queensland change coming in and the New South Wales change coming in, we've had to elevate our margin on racing. We've had to pop it up a few percent, which means, you know, it's worse for the punter. A lot of punters probably won't be involved on certain races. We have had to drop our limits. Like, before the race fields came in on a race day, we used to bet everyone at any time to win 10,000 on a metro, 5,000 on a provincial race. I'd be happy to do it. Now you can't. And same as a sport. I told you about those limits on Wednesday. You can't anymore. And that's where we sit. And I know these fees have to be paid. I know there's a very like, you know, the prize money on racing is great, which also helps integrity, but it's gone too far in my view. And I've been arguing this for 5 or 6 years. And then obviously COVID hit, and there was the sugar rush of COVID. And everyone thought, oh, the turnover was declining, not just with us, but everyone around the industry. And then COVID hit, and all of a sudden everything spikes, and then the solution is to elevate these fees again, which weren't working 2 years ago. They're not working again now with all the extra competition in the marketplace, and we're going to turn them up. It's going to be a lot of bloodshed over the next couple of years, and it'll be interesting where it all finishes. And it's not good for us, and it's certainly not good for punters.
Yeah, and this is a question from Seb Parker. He says, you probably can't elaborate because it's ongoing, but would you like some I would like some insight into the current dispute with Rugby Australia, which is causing them to drop all the Australian markets, and why it's different to others. He just said, and also a general overview of sports body fees.
Yeah, we're having a discussion with Rugby Australia at the moment. I've done everything I can to resolve it. I've filled out every form I need to fill out, and we're just waiting. And I'd like to be able to say it's going to be on tomorrow. I'd like to be able to say I can't do anything more at my end. I've done everything we've needed to do to resolve the issue that's there, and unfortunately, I don't know what the problem is at the moment. So it's just maybe they're busy. I don't know. And you know, I've reached out a number of times, and obviously the season's just finished now. It's only for Australian-based games, so it's not really that big a drama at the moment. But obviously we've got international matches coming around, so hopefully it'll be resolved shortly. We've got great relationships. As much as I've just, obviously given my discontent about the way the fees are in place, I've said that directly to all of them as well, and they all understand the importance we play in the industry. And I had a very positive chat with Racing Queensland just an hour ago, and I think there's that side of it. I'm very happy to articulate and give them the perspective that if you pop fees up, it just doesn't mean more revenue for them. There's a sliding doors situation. So I think it's a case of I pride myself on anything I'm going to say it to those people, and having the integrity to do so. And yeah, so there's a lot of different fees with all the different sports, and Rugby Australia, we're just a little bit of an impasse at the moment.
Yep. Punt School Jared says, how often does Vegas make the call on a game?
I don't know. I think that sometimes, people like to maybe think that there's something going on or a line or whatever, but from our end, it's more so just having a look at where the market's sort of heading to, and Vegas is obviously very strong on all the US sports, and you respect their market moves and those sort of things. So I think maybe it's an overused phrase, so I don't get too caught up with it.
Nice. And Jack Howard 811 says, what advice would you give to a new bookmaker starting out?
Pray and I hope you get a few results early. No, you've got to start. You've got to be, and that's where we still are at the moment. Even though we've grown, you have to understand where you sit in the marketplace. So when you come into the marketplace, you've got to understand the landscape. You've got to know your role. You've got to protect your good customers that are loyal to you, whether that be winning, losing, or otherwise. People that are pro your brand, you've got to make sure you look after them really, really well. You've got to make sure you get those pieces in the puzzle sorted, because you only get one first impression, and get your IT right. When people come to the site, they're going to make a pretty quick decision if they're going to stick around or not. So I think it's getting all those things in place. Don't overspend early. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. I'll make many, many mistakes every day, and it's making sure when you make those mistakes, they're not nails in your coffin. You've got, because it is a very, very difficult thing to start when you're kicking things off. It's a lot of people don't realise that, but it's every professional punter is going to find you in that first window. And with the race fields, they're able to bet, and if you don't have a good group of customers that you can offset that with, then you're going to have a couple of tough years to start. So it's just making sure you're very confident, you get a good group of people around you that are willing to work hard. It's not an easy business, I'm still doing it now, work 100 hours a week. It's trying to make sure that you're prepared to put that time and effort into making it work, because if you don't, you're going to get eaten alive.
Yeah. Is there anything you would, if you started all over again now, that you'd do differently?
Oh, 100%. Like if anyone, if Matt Tripp was sitting here, who's obviously the doyen of wagering, there wouldn't be a person alive that would say they wouldn't do something differently. Yeah, you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to learn from them, and you hope it makes your business and you better for it. But yeah, there's a lot of things that we've done poorly, and do I regret them? Of course, but it's just learning from that and saying, okay, well, next time, it's the same as when you're trading a game. If you've got 100 games you're trading, you're not going to get everyone right. You can't, because if you get everyone right, you're not having a crack either. So it's like in anything, if you're going to make 100 decisions, you can't get every one of them right, because there are genuine 50-50 decisions that you've got to make, and you've got to try to be right 55% of the time. And so yeah, of course, there's plenty of things that we would have done differently, but we're hoping to learn from them. And all you can worry about, one of the traders, he always says, you get a sore neck from looking back. So all you can do is look forward and try to be better tomorrow.
Inspirational, love it. Biggest expenses for an online bookmaker?
Race fields. They're just, and to be fair, when you start up, it probably isn't that bad, but our fees are probably 65-70% of our expenses. It's just unbelievable. Probably for us, we'd be on a higher margin, a higher percentage of that, but it's scary the amount that you're paying out on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So they're by far and away the biggest expense. Obviously, you got a team, you got your rent and all that that's fixed, but the product fees and the point of consumption by far and away our biggest expense.
Yep. How much would you hold, say, on an average Sydney horse race versus an average NRL game?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, because then when you say average, that probably puts it in context. But if you've got an 11 o'clock, first race of the day, and then your feature, there's miles apart, same as a footy game. You got a Saturday Arvo game and a blockbuster Friday night. But I would probably feel that maybe you'd hold more, because with the rugby league in particular, we've got 200 odd markets, so you get a lot of action on a lot of different options throughout the course of that. So I'd probably suggest on a good rugby league game, so not a origin game, but like a good one, and then a good race, so not a Group 1, you'd probably hold a little bit more on rugby league.
Yep, all right. What do you think about the future of the future holds for Betfair's model, given the current tax landscape and increases to POC tax?
I know they've got a few concerns over where everything's heading, and I'm sure they wouldn't be upset with me saying that. I've had a couple of conversations with them recently. I've got a massive respect for Betfair. I think it's mutual. We get on really, really well. They're so important to our industry. Without Betfair, the whole industry is in trouble. And they need to be taxed at a different rate to what bookmakers are. Just like selfishly, I feel that if you're running a model like we are, we should be taxed at a different rate too. It's not as cut as dry as what Betfair is. Unfortunately, there's some people in high positions that probably don't share those views. I think if the taxes escalate like they are, I think Betfair are going to have to make some significant changes, and they're the last people that want to do that. I can assure you. I know they cop a lot of flack, or they have copped some flack over what's happened with the NRL. It's not their choice. They're not doing it because they want to. They're doing it because they have to. And with a strong Betfair, you've got a strong, like for us, if we're handling a horse race and there's a lot of liquidity in a Betfair market, we're going to double or triple our holds on that event because we're confident in the prices. If the price isn't there and we're not 100% sure where that market price is, we don't have the confidence to leverage up our book. Yeah. It's a massive domino effect, and Betfair needs to be strong for the industry to be strong. They've got to be taxed differently, which they are in some states. But everyone needs to be singing off that same song sheet. So, yeah, if things don't change and it is what it is, then there's going to be some changes, I suspect, which will be made at Betfair.
Yeah, righto, mate. My last question for you. I was watching back our interview from about a year ago, and I said I wanted a search bar, mate, and I still haven't got a search bar.
I've asked that many, many times to our IT. That is the biggest cause of concern for me, our IT department. They try their best, but they've got a number of bookmakers on them. So I don't know why it's so difficult. I would have thought it'd be straightforward too. I'll make sure I'll request it, and I'll make sure I don't accept another interview until it's there. So, mate, maybe by that time we'll have the naming rights at CBus in about 5 years' time.
Yeah, mate. I'm getting lazier by the day. I need that search bar. But no, thank you very much, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Enjoyable. Hopefully the listeners enjoyed it, and hopefully enjoyed the office. So.
Yeah, awesome, mate.